if you wanted to write one of these applications for Windows, for macOS, for X11, what would be different about that experience compared to what is available on Wayland now?
Hmm. Like if I would write for Wayland now, I wouldn't make a multi-window application
Mhm,
because I know it doesn't work. So why should I try?
mhm,
On Windows, I would just hmm, I would just go with it. I would like say, if there are designers, which usually in science there aren't, but maybe in this example there are, they could come up with anything, any kind of style of UI that they want, and I could say, okay, I can make this happen.
mhm,
On Wayland, a lot of it is semantics. So if the protocols don't support like put something right, left, top, bottom to someone else, something else,
mhm.
some GUI element, or if there's like no protocol support for it, it's just an impossible task. So on Wayland, you're more confined by what the compositors and what the protocol supports, as opposed to on Windows, where you can make literally whatever. So I think that would be the primary difference, that on Wayland, you currently at least would need to design around the protocol, while on Windows, you would need to design around your idea and your concept that you've come up with for
Mhm.
how that GUI should look like. I
So
think that, yeah.
as it currently stands, it's sort of Wayland is this, I guess, it's the one odd one out. On Windows, on macOS, and on X11, you could just, make these multi-window apps with no issue.
Yeah.
Mhm,
I think the worst thing, okay, and like worst, not in like, oh God, but in like, not great, is that usually, like if you're an app developer, you don't write for Wayland, you write for a toolkit. So for example, if I want to do cross-platform stuff, I would use Qt
mhm,
as toolkit. And Qt has a lot of functions which like wrap neatly around macOS and Windows API and X11 API, but not at all around Wayland API. For example, the placement like
mhm,
falls apart in certain situations, which is another thing where this protocol might actually be useful for like actually placing other elements on top.
mhm,
Um, and it's also like generally like if the API of the toolkit doesn't actually match, what should the toolkit do in that case? Should it like just say like, oh, error, I can't do this on Wayland, in which case you would need to adjust your application to work, or should it like try to emulate it somehow, so to like make it work in most cases but not all cases, which is also frustrating for the app developer. And then the app developer is like, oh, the toolkit is broken on this platform, and will complain about it at the toolkit developers. So, and they are like, oh, we can't do it because Wayland doesn't give us the capability to actually implement this.
mhm.
So yeah, I think I don't want to be a toolkit developer, like especially not Qt. I think it's easier for GTK because that's like GNOME centric or Linux centric, so they
Mhm.
can be Wayland first. But Qt is like has always been multi-platform, and I think that would be, or actually, I know that this is an issue for Qt
Mhm.
developers.
Mhm.
So yeah, it's not ideal.
Because like with something like you'd want it to work. Obviously, you want to have the ability to write platform specific code, but you don't want to have everything be platform specific. And when you have something like so when you have something like Wayland there that's going to be like, okay, well, it works. We can just use the generic code on macOS and on Windows, but then this Wayland thing, which also, being on Linux has a much smaller user base, like having that be the thing we have to write something specific for it. I could see that being, an area where it just gets left by the wayside. And even if there is an option to do it in this weird way, it's likely going to be ignored unless it is like a specific purpose of that project to be available under Wayland.
Yeah. Also, like some things on Wayland are semantics, so where you're like needing context information on what the intent is, for example, for placement,
Mhm.
which you don't have from the toolkit. So where you would need to basically add it somehow to the toolkit. But
Mhm.
what does it do on Windows then if you have like a hint for that for just Wayland?
Mhm.
So that's another thing. At the moment, if Qt has for Windows has a move to method where you can just move a window to a position,
Mhm.
and that currently in the documentation has just the information works everywhere except Wayland. So And I think
I believe
there's
on
not
Mac
really much that you
OS,
can do.
it does have I think it does have a specific thing for Mac OS where Mac OS flips the coordinate system.
Ooh,
Yeah. I might be thinking about something else, but where it has that in the docs, but I know that. No, it's MPV. MPV's geometry option. It says this works everywhere except Wayland. macOS for some reason flips the geometry, so you gotta like, yeah. I don't know why.
yes.
But
You would think that MPV guys would just correct for that on macOS. It's like if macOS just invert your coordinate system.
yeah, you would think that, but that involves an extra if statement. So someone's gonna
Maybe it's
obviously.
not.
Sorry, what was that?
So maybe it's not that easy. Like it's always nice if you get
Very
into
possible.
a project and say, "Oh yeah, it's so easy to implement," and the people there are like, "No, it's actually not. You
Yeah,
have no
you've
idea."
experienced that quite a bit.
Yeah.
So someone's obviously gonna say, well, why not just get rid of, because it's not a common way to make an application. Why not just stop making these multi-window apps and just make a big window that has a bunch of, applets in it, like you would see with, the modern GIMP UI or a video editor or OBS or anything else like that. Why even bother with the multi-window stuff?
Because it works really well for multi-monitor applications. So if you want to have for example, in case of a microscope, you might want to have all of your controls on a small monitor, and then you want to move your main display to a really good monitor that's larger to the side. And you can basically divvy up your UI between your different monitors and between your workspace. So you can, for example, have a file manager below it, and it's very flexible. If you have like a ton of controls and a ton of like windows and stuff to show on screen. While when you have one window, you can maybe like drag it over multiple monitors. You can maybe undock stuff, but then you even need to position those docked windows. So same problem kind of. So yeah, I think for this kind of application, it's useful. Same for stuff like the GIMP, where you might want to move your drawing canvas to a different monitor and then draw on it, like if you have a tablet maybe, and have your controls on a different space, or like some diagnostic window in a different space where you can look at the colors of your or color distribution of your drawing or something like that. So there's like a lot of use cases where this pattern makes sense. I would prefer if like applications had like an option to like have one window mode and like split window mode like GIMP does, but yeah, lots of apps are designed that way in the scientific space.
Now, someone's also going to ask about tilers, because tiling window manager. I don't know why it was even brought up as a topic in any of the discussion. Tilers and multi-window apps. Just what do you have to say on that matter? Because my opinion on it is tilers are they don't matter. Nothing works properly on a tiler, so just don't even consider it. I use a tiler, for the record. I run awesome WM, but nothing works properly on a tiler.
For that, I would say, so if you want to use this app, you have a computer for it in a science lab, and you don't use a tiler in that case. Like, or if you want to use GIMP in multi-window mode, you also use a stacking window manager, and you don't use a tiling window manager. If you use a tiling window manager, you will like either switch stuff to single window mode if they support it, or use a different app that like fits your style better. I don't think it has to work everywhere in order to be useful. I think it's fine. Like if you use a tiler, you know what you're getting into. So, and I think you can expect from a user to be prepared for these apps to not work like as intended. And I think the apps should also probably be fine with it. Like the user experience won't be amazing, but it's the user's choice.
Well,
the apps will work well on like most stock Linux distributions, because I don't know any like normal Linux distribution that is actually using a tiling window manager by default. Hot take, probably, but
none of the major ones. Ubuntu's GNOME, Fedora's GNOME, Manjaro's KDE, Red Hat's GNOME, most other things are GNOME. Yeah. And if it's not GNOME or KDE, it's probably XFC or Cinnamon, which are both stacking as well.
Yeah, Cinnamon and Cosmic, which is GNOME right now.
Oh, one exception. Right now, Pop! OS, yeah, Cosmic. So Pop! OS with their GNOME Pop Shell thing. That's pretty much the only one